Hello, my dear wanderers. It's Soren. Welcome back. Tonight we journey to the mist-covered peaks of the Carpathian mountains, where time seems to pause and the whispers of the past linger softly in the air. In these forgotten corners, the monasteries stand still like guardians of silence, their stone walls weathered by centuries of wind and rain. The cool mountain breeze carries the scent of pine, and the rustling of leaves offers a quiet rhythm to the monk's daily routine. So before you drift into sleep, take a moment to like and subscribe. Only if this brought you calm, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, take a deep breath, and let's drift into tonight's journey together. The monasteries themselves are often simple, constructed from the local materials stone, wood, and clay, blending harmoniously with the natural landscape. The stone walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, seem to hold the quiet strength of the land itself. The wooden beams, darkened by time and the smoke of countless hearths, create a sense of warmth and comfort, even in the most barren of winters. Each monastery is a small community where the monks live, work, and pray together in a routine dictated by the rhythms of nature and the liturgical calendar. One of the most striking features of these monasteries is their isolation. Unlike the grand cathedrals of the cities, the monasteries of the Carpathians are rarely visited by outsiders. To reach them, one must often travel along narrow mountain paths, weaving through forest and past hidden springs. The journey itself is a pilgrimage, as each step brings one deeper into the heart of the mountains, farther from the world below. The silence here is profound, broken only by the sound of birds, the rustle of the trees in the wind, or the distant rush of a mountain stream. The air is thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the mist, which often clings to the mountain peaks, adds a sense of mystery to the landscape. The monks who live in these monasteries are few in number, often living a simple, ascetic life. Their days are spent in prayer, meditation, and work, with a deep focus on spiritual practice. They rise early in the morning for the first prayers of the day, their voices echoing through the cool, quiet air of the monastery's chapel. The bells toll, calling them to worship, and they gather together for the chanting of psalms, the recitation of prayers, and the quiet contemplation of the divine. The rest of the day is spent in manual labor, tending to the gardens, working in the fields, and preparing food. The monks are self-sufficient, relying on the land around them for their sustenance. Their lives are simple, yet they are filled with purpose and meaning. The isolation of these monasteries is both a blessing and a challenge. For the monks, it is a way of life that allows for deep spiritual connection, free from the distractions of the world. However, it also means that the monks are cut off from the rest of society. They rely on the occasional visit from travelers, merchants, or pilgrims for news of the outside world. For many of the monks, these visits are a rare and cherished event, a momentary connection to the wider world beyond the mountains. But even then, the monks remain focused on their work and their prayer, ever mindful of their purpose in the world. The beauty of these monasteries is not just in their architecture or their isolation, but in the way they seem to embody the landscape itself. The mountains, the forests, the mist, they all seem to converge at these sacred sites, creating a space where nature and spirituality coexist. The monasteries of the Carpathians are not just buildings, they are extensions of the land, reflections of the natural world in their simplicity and serenity. They are places of peace, where the soul can find rest and the spirit can connect with the divine. In the coming days, we will explore some of the most remarkable of these monasteries, visiting places that have remained largely unchanged for centuries. we will walk the paths that monks have walked for generations, breathing in the stillness of the air and listening to the silence that fills the mountains. Through their quiet devotion, the monks of the Carpathians have preserved a way of life that remains a testament to the enduring power of faith, solitude, and the natural world. As the journey continues deeper into the Carpathian mountains, the first monastery we visit rises from the mist like a forgotten relic from another time. The steep, rocky path that leads to it is surrounded by ancient trees whose twisted branches stretch upward, as if reaching for the heavens. The air here is thick with the scent of pine, and the sound of the distant wind through the trees is the only thing that breaks the profound silence. The monastery stands as a solitary figure against the backdrop of the towering peaks, its whitewashed stone walls seemingly untouched by the passing centuries. This monastery, like so many in the Carpathians, was built in the early days of the Christian faith in the region, during a time when the mountains were seen as a place of refuge from the turmoil of the outside world. Its origins are wrapped in legend, with stories of hermits and saints who sought solace in these high, remote places. The monks who founded this monastery chose its location, not just for its seclusion, but for its proximity to the elements. Here, amidst the mountains, they could feel the presence of God more acutely, as if the very earth beneath their feet was a reflection of divine creation. The stones of the monastery, now weathered by centuries of wind and rain, have witnessed countless prayers, rituals, and quiet moments of reflection. The chapel, small but humble, is adorned with simple icons and candles that flicker in the dim light, casting long shadows on the stone walls. The flickering flames illuminate ancient frescoes that line the walls, their vibrant colors still vivid despite the passage of time. These murals tell the stories of the saints and the divine, their figures rendered in a style that blends the art of the East with the traditions of the West, creating a unique visual language that is as timeless as the mountains themselves. The monks who live here, though few in number, carry on the traditions of their predecessors. They wake before dawn, the first rays of light barely touching the peaks, and gather in the chapel for the first prayer of the day. The bells toll, their deep resonance echoing through the valley, and the monks chant in unison, their voices rising together in a hymn that has been sung here for centuries. The sound of their voices, though soft and peaceful, fills the space with a sense of purpose and reverence. The monks do not speak much during the day, for their work is prayer itself. When not in the chapel, they are out in the fields or tending to the gardens, their lives marked by a rhythm of labor and devotion. As the day unfolds, the monastery remains a place of peace, untouched by the modern world. There are no roads leading here, no bustling market square or nearby village. The only way in is the narrow path that winds its way up the mountain, often hidden in the mist that seems to cling to the land. This isolation, while challenging, is what allows the monks to live their lives free from distraction, focused solely on their spiritual practices. For them, the land itself is part of their prayer. Each step they take, each stone they turn, is a part of their devotion to God. The surrounding forest and mountains are not just a backdrop to their lives, but integral to their spiritual experience. The rustling of the leaves, the sound of the stream, the distant calls of birds, these are all part of the divine chorus that accompanies their prayers. The beauty of this monastery lies not only in its location, high on the mountain and surrounded by nature, but also in its simplicity. There are no ornate decorations or grand cathedrals here. The monks live in modest cells, small rooms furnished with little more than a bed and a desk for writing. The simplicity of their lives is a reflection of their faith, an unwavering belief that the most important things in life cannot be seen with the eyes, but must be felt with the heart. In the evenings, when the sun begins to dip below the peaks and the mist begins to settle in, the monastery takes on an even more serene quality. The monks gather once more in the chapel for the evening prayer, their voices soft against the rising wind. The candles flicker, their light dancing on the walls as the monks chant their psalms. Outside, the sound of the wind grows louder, carrying with it the whispers of the mountains themselves. The air is cool and crisp, and the only light comes from the gentle glow of the chapel and the distant stars above. The solitude of the Carpathians and the seclusion of these monasteries creates an atmosphere of reflection and inner peace. Here, time seems to stand still. The world outside may rush on with its demands and distractions, but within the walls of the monastery, there is only the present moment, the steady rhythm of prayer, work, and communion with the land. The monks are not concerned with the outside world. Their lives are focused on the eternal, on the quiet pursuit of spiritual growth and connection with the divine. For those who visit these monasteries, the experience is one of profound tranquility. The monks, though few in number, are welcoming to those who come seeking peace, offering a place to rest and reflect. For a short time, visitors can experience the life of the monks, following their daily routines and becoming part of the stillness that permeates the land. It is a humbling experience, one that invites visitors to slow down, breathe deeply, and connect with the quiet power of nature and faith. As we leave this first monastery behind and continue our journey through the Carpathians, the memory of the silent sanctuaries lingers. The peace that the monks have cultivated here is not confined to the walls of the monastery, but spreads outward, touching the land and the people who come here. The Carpathians, with their mist-shrouded peaks and ancient forests, continue to stand as a testament to the enduring power of solitude, faith, and the quiet rhythm of nature. As we venture deeper into the Carpathian mountains, our next stop brings us to another secluded monastery, this one nestled in a lush valley surrounded by ancient oak trees and gently flowing streams. This monastery, like the last, is a place of silence and serenity, a world apart from the hustle and bustle of modern life. The monks here follow the same simple rhythm of life, work, prayer, and contemplation, tied to the land and the divine. The work of the monks in the Carpathians is as essential as their prayer. For them, the two are intertwined. Labor is an act of devotion, and every task they perform, no matter how mundane, is a form of worship. There is no divide between the sacred and the profane in their lives. Every moment is an opportunity to serve, to connect with God through the simple acts of daily life. The monastery's gardens, fields, and workshops are maintained with care, and the monks work together hand in hand to ensure that the monastery remains self-sustaining. In the early morning, before the sun has fully risen and the mist still lingers in the valleys, the monks begin their work. Some tend to the vegetable gardens, cultivating the land with humble tools, digging, planting, and harvesting the produce that will sustain them through the year. The earth here is rich and fertile, nourished by the mountain streams that wind through the valley. The work is slow but steady, a meditative process that requires patience and attention to detail. Each seed planted is a prayer in itself, each vegetable harvested a reminder of the abundance that nature provides. Other monks tend to the animals, goats, chickens, and cows, ensuring that the monastery has enough milk, eggs, and meat to sustain its small community. The care of the animals is also seen as a form of devotion, a way of honoring the life that sustains them. There is no rush in the mornings. Each task is done with a quiet reverence. The sound of the monks' voices soft as they work together in harmony with the land and its creatures. The monks, are skilled craftsmen as well. Some work in the monastery's small workshop, carving wood, repairing tools, and creating simple yet beautiful pieces of functional art. The monastery's buildings are adorned with intricate carvings, symbols of faith and nature that reflect the quiet beauty of the surrounding landscape. The woodworking is done by hand, each piece carved with careful attention, each curve and line infused with the spirit of the land. These handcrafted objects, whether a wooden chair, a door frame, or a simple bowl, are reminders of the monks' deep connection to their environment and the sacredness they find in even the simplest tasks. Inside the monastery, the work is no less important. The chapel, where the monks gather for prayer, must be maintained, and the sacred rituals that take place there are essential to the life of the community. The monks tend to the altar, cleaning and preparing the space for the daily services. The incense burns, the candles flicker, and the soft murmur of prayers fills the air. Each monk has their own role during the services, whether they are chanting psalms, reading from the sacred texts, or leading the prayers. The rhythm of the prayers, like the rhythm of their work, is a constant thread throughout their day. It is this rhythm, this balance of labor and worship, that sustains them in their secluded life. As the day unfolds, the monks take time for rest and reflection. The midday meal is a simple affair: fresh bread, vegetables, and whatever else they have grown or gathered. The food is shared in silence, a reminder of the humility and gratitude that permeate their lives. After the meal, the monks may take a brief rest before returning to their tasks. The afternoon is spent in more work, repairs to the buildings, the continuation of the garden work, or the crafting of new items for the monastery. The life of the monks is not one of luxury or ease, but of simplicity and discipline. There are no distractions, no luxuries, only the work that must be done and the prayers that must be offered. Yet, it is this very simplicity that gives their lives meaning. By devoting themselves fully to their work and their prayer, the monks find a profound sense of peace and fulfillment, knowing that each day is spent in service to God and to the community around them. As the day draws to a close, the monks gather once more in the chapel for the evening prayer. The sun sets behind the mountains, casting a golden light over the valley. As the monks chant softly, their voices rising together in a harmonious blend of faith and devotion. The candles flicker, the incense curls into the air, and the rhythm of the day comes full circle. The work is done, the prayers have been offered, and now the monks can rest, knowing that they have fulfilled their calling. In the stillness of the evening, as the stars begin to twinkle above, and the mist begins to roll in, the monastery takes on a sense of timelessness. The work of the day, the prayers, and the silence all blend together, creating a sense of unity and peace that fills the air. The monks retire to their cells for a night of rest, the only sound the soft rustling of the trees and the distant call of an owl in the woods. The cycle will begin again the next day, as the monks rise to continue their work and their prayer, living lives of quiet devotion, sustained by the land and by the divine. In this remote corner of the Carpathians, surrounded by the towering peaks and the dense forests, the monks continue their ancient way of life. Their days are shaped by the rhythm of nature and the rhythm of faith. Each task a prayer, each moment a connection to something greater than themselves. The monasteries of the Carpathians remain a sanctuary, not just for the monks who live there, but for all who seek peace, solitude, and a deeper connection to the land and the divine. After a day of work and prayer, the monks find a deep sense of peace in the surrounding forests. These ancient woods, untouched by the noise of the world, have long been a sanctuary for the monks of the Carpathian monastery. Here, they retreat into the embrace of nature, walking the winding paths through towering trees, listening to the rustling of leaves, and breathing in the crisp, fresh air. The trees, some of them hundreds of years old, stand like silent sentinels, their thick trunks and sprawling branches creating a quiet refuge from the outside world. For the monks, the forest is more than just a place for leisure. It is a sacred space, a place where they can reflect on the teachings of the day and deepen their connection with the divine. Walking among the trees, they find the solitude and stillness necessary for contemplation. The forest, with its muted light and soft shadows, becomes a living prayer, a space where the natural world and spiritual life merge seamlessly. The trees themselves, tall and mighty, seem to embody the strength and endurance of faith. Their roots stretch deep into the earth, and their branches reach toward the heavens, mirroring the monks' desire to connect with both the material world and the divine. As they walk the forest paths, the monks are reminded of the interconnectedness of all things: the soil beneath their feet, the trees above them, the animals that live in the forest, and the divine presence they seek to cultivate in their hearts. The monks often take time to pause along their walks, standing quietly in the clearing where the sunlight filters through the canopy, casting soft beams of light onto the moss-covered ground. Here, in the quiet of the woods, the monks feel the presence of God in the most intimate way, through the gentle rustling of leaves, the sound of a distant stream, and the serene beauty of nature. They know that in these moments, they are connected not just to the land, but to the divine order of the universe. Each step they take, each breath they draw, becomes a silent prayer of gratitude. In the evenings, as twilight settles over the forest and the stars begin to appear, the monks often gather around small fires in the clearing, sitting in peaceful silence. The crackling of the fire is the only sound, mingling with the night calls of birds and the occasional rustle of a small animal moving through the underbrush. Here, they are reminded of the simple joys of life, the warmth of the fire, the comfort of the earth beneath them, and the sense of community that exists even in solitude. The time spent in the forest, though quiet and reflective, is also a time of connection to nature, to each other, and to the divine. The ancient trees, which have watched over these mountains for centuries, seem to hold the secrets of the past. The monks know that the forest has been a place of retreat and reflection for generations before them. It is said that the very woodlands were once home to hermits and saints who sought solitude in the shadow of the mountains, and their spirits still linger in the air. These are the woods where faith has been tested and strengthened, where the monks find their strength in prayer, and where their souls are nourished by the peace that only nature can offer. The monks also care for the forest, tending to the trees and ensuring that the delicate balance of nature is maintained. The forest is not just a place for contemplation, it is also a sanctuary that provides sustenance and shelter. The herbs and plants that grow here are used in the monasteries' healing practices. The mushrooms and berries are gathered for food, and the wood from fallen trees is used for firewood. The monks are in tune with the rhythms of the forest, working with it, not against it, understanding that their spiritual life is deeply connected to the land they inhabit. For visitors who come to these remote monasteries, the forest offers a quiet, almost otherworldly experience. The air feels different here, cleaner, fresher, as if the very environment is infused with a deep sense of peace. The trees, with their towering presence, seem to invite reflection and stillness. It is a place where time feels suspended, where the noise of the world outside falls away, leaving only the hum of nature and the peaceful sound of one's thoughts. Walking through the forest, visitors can feel the deep connection between the monks and the land. The slow pace of the walk, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, and the scent of pine and damp earth all contribute to a sense of calm that is rare to find in the modern world. For the monks, these walks are a way to ground themselves in the natural world, to feel the presence of God in the simple beauty of the earth. For the visitors, it is an opportunity to step into a world where time moves more slowly, where peace and solitude can be found in the most ordinary moments. As the monks leave the forest to return to their monastery, the quiet beauty of the trees lingers in their minds. The peace of the woods stays with them, as it always does, reminding them of the sacredness of the earth and the importance of living in harmony with nature. Their lives are intertwined with the land, and in the quiet of the forest, they find not only the presence of God, but a deep sense of gratitude for the simplicity and beauty of the world around them. In these forests, the monks are not just caretakers of the land, but part of its ongoing story, its history, its mysteries, and its sacredness. The trees, the streams, the quiet spaces beneath the canopy, all of it is woven into the life of the monastery, creating a deep connection that binds the monks to the land and to each other. And so, as the mist rises once more and the mountains stand silent in the distance, the monks continue their lives, walking the forest paths, tending the earth, and living in harmony with the land that sustains them. As the days pass in the Carpathian monasteries, the steady rhythms of life unfold much as they have for centuries. Here, nestled in the shadow of the mountains, time seems to stretch and contract, moving slowly, yet with a purpose. The monks' lives are bound by the liturgical hours, a schedule that has existed since the early days of monasticism. These rituals, so deeply embedded in their daily routine, connect the monks to a tradition that stretches across centuries, linking them to the ancient fathers and mothers of the church. The rituals of prayer are the heartbeat of the monks' lives. Each day is divided into hours of prayer and work, with the monks rising before dawn to begin their first prayers. The early morning air is crisp and cool, the valley still shrouded in mist, as they gather in the small chapel for matins. The first prayer of the day. The darkness of the morning is pierced by the sound of their chants, rising in harmony, filling the quiet space with reverence and calm. The prayers are recited in silence, each monk's voice adding to the symphony of faith that resonates through the chapel's stone walls. These early hours of the morning are sacred to the monks. Stillness of the world outside mirrors the stillness they seek within. The candlelight flickers softly as the monks stand in their simple robes, their heads bowed in prayer. The ritual of matins is a time for introspection, for setting the tone of the day ahead. In these quiet moments, the monks are reminded of the divine presence that surrounds them, offering guidance, peace, and a sense of unity with the world. After matins, the monks move into the work of the day. The rhythm of labor flows naturally from the rhythm of prayer. As they engage in their daily tasks, whether in the fields, the kitchen, the workshops, or the kitchens, work is never seen as a distraction from their spiritual life, but as a form of devotion in itself. It is a way of honoring the divine through the labor of their hands. The slow, deliberate movements of their work, whether in the garden, carving wood, or preparing food, are all performed with the same intent. Each act is prayer made tangible, each moment an offering of gratitude for the life they live. By midday, the monks gather once more for a simple meal, often taken in silence, with the food prepared from the monastery's gardens and the forest beyond. Bread, vegetables, cheese, and fruits, the harvest of their labor, is shared with quiet grace. Though simple, the meals are prepared with love and care, each monk aware of the blessing that comes with having enough to sustain them. The time spent together in silence, over food, is a meditation in itself, a moment to reflect on the sustenance provided by the earth and by God. There is no hurry, no conversation beyond the necessary exchange, just the peaceful act of eating, of taking sustenance into the body. The afternoon hours are filled with more work, tending to the gardens, repairing buildings, or continuing the sacred rituals of their monastic life. The monks move in harmony with the land and with one another, their tasks flowing seamlessly into one another. They are aware of the small rhythms of life, the way the sun shifts in the sky, how the trees sway in the breeze, the quiet movement of time. Each task, no matter how small, is done with mindfulness, reflecting their belief that the divine exists in all things, whether grand or humble. As the sun begins to set, the monks gather once again in the chapel for vespers, the evening prayers. The light outside is soft and golden, casting long shadows over the stone walls as they kneel in prayer, their voices joining in a chant of gratitude for the day that has passed. The peace of the evening settles over the monastery, bringing with it a sense of completion. The day is winding down, and the quiet of the land seems to deepen. In the chapel, the flicker of candlelight casts a warm glow, offering comfort as the monks end their day of work and devotion. After vespers, the monks take a light meal, often consisting of fruits, bread, or simple fare. This evening is a time for rest, a time to prepare for the stillness of the night. The work of the day is complete, and now the monks can enter into a time of deeper reflection. The days in the Carpathian monasteries are filled with the sacredness of routine, with the rhythm of prayer, labor, and rest interwoven in such a way that each moment is imbued with meaning. But even as the monks rest, the monastery is not silent. The winds continue to whisper through the trees outside. The night birds call from the forest, and the soft hum of the land fills the still air. There is a quiet serenity in the Carpathian night, a reminder that the work of the day, the prayers, and the stillness of the land continue, even as the monks sleep. The land itself, with its deep forests, its flowing rivers, and its mist-shrouded peaks, is a part of the rhythm of the monastery. It is a living, breathing companion to the monks, a constant presence that sustains them and shapes their lives. The life of the monastery is simple, yet it is rich with meaning. Each day is a reflection of the monks' commitment to living in harmony with nature, with each other, and with the divine. The hours of prayer and work blend seamlessly together, creating a life of deep devotion and quiet peace. The monastery, with its stone walls, its humble gardens, and its ancient rituals, stands as a testament to the power of simplicity. In a world that often seems to move too quickly, the monastery offers a glimpse into a life lived slowly, deliberately, and in deep connection with the natural world and the divine presence that sustains it. As the journey through the Carpathians continues, we now find ourselves moving along winding mountain paths that lead us to another of the Carpathian monasteries, one that has long been a place of pilgrimage. For centuries, travelers and pilgrims from distant lands have made the arduous trek to this remote sanctuary, seeking solace, peace, and spiritual renewal. The monastery is nestled in a valley surrounded by towering peaks, its white stone walls rising like a beacon in the mist. The pilgrims who journey to this place come for many reasons. Some seek healing for their bodies, while others come in search of spiritual clarity. Some are simply drawn by the quiet beauty of the land, seeking refuge from the noise and chaos of the world. Whatever their reasons, all who make the pilgrimage are welcomed with open arms. The monks, ever humble, do not ask for much, but they do offer the one thing they can give: peace. The pilgrims are invited to stay at the monastery, to share in the monks' daily rituals, and to immerse themselves in the stillness of the mountain air. The path to the monastery is long and difficult, winding through dense forests, over steep hills, and along narrow mountain ridges. For many pilgrims, the journey itself is a form of penance, a way of purifying the body and soul before reaching the sacred space. The path is often shrouded in mist, and the mountains seem to stretch endlessly into the sky, creating a sense of awe and wonder in those who make the journey. The road, though challenging, is also breathtakingly beautiful, with each step revealing a new vista of forests, streams, and valleys. The pilgrims who arrive at the monastery often speak of a sense of peace that comes over them as they approach the entrance. The simple stone gates, adorned with intricate carvings of saints and angels, seem to beckon them into a different world, a world where time moves slowly and the worries of the outside world fade away. As they pass through the gates, they are greeted by the monks, who offer them warm bread, water, and a quiet space to rest. During their stay, the pilgrims are invited to take part in the monks' daily rituals. They rise with the first light of dawn for the early morning prayer, joining the monks in the chapel as the soft chants of matins fill the air. The pilgrims are encouraged to walk the monastery grounds, to reflect in the gardens, and to meditate by the stream that winds its way through the valley. The gentle hum of nature, the rustling of leaves, the sound of the water, the distant call of birds, provides a backdrop for their own spiritual reflection. The monks, though few in number, are attentive to the needs of their guests. They offer quiet guidance, sharing the teachings of the church and the wisdom of the mountains. In the evenings, when the sun begins to set behind the peaks, the monks gather for vespers, and the pilgrims are invited to join them. The soft glow of candlelight fills the chapel, casting long shadows on the stone walls as the monks chant their evening prayers. The sound of the bells tolls through the valley, signaling the end of the day and the beginning of rest. For many of the pilgrims, the time spent at the monastery is transformative. The stillness of the mountains, the simplicity of the monk's way of life, and the quiet rituals of prayer create an atmosphere of profound peace and connection. In this remote corner of the Carpathians, far from the noise and distractions of the world, the pilgrims find a space to reconnect with themselves and with the divine. As the days pass, the pilgrims begin to feel a deeper sense of calm. The concerns of the outside world seem distant, replaced by the rhythms of prayer, work, and contemplation. The monks, who have dedicated their lives to living in harmony with the land and the divine, offer a silent example of how to live with purpose and grace. For many pilgrims, this experience is a reminder of the importance of slowing down, of taking time for reflection, and of finding peace in the midst of a world that often feels chaotic. As the time comes for the pilgrims to leave the monastery and continue their journey, they are often reluctant to part from the peace they have found here. They bid farewell to the monks, offering thanks for their hospitality, and begin the long journey back down the mountain. But the memory of the monastery, of the stillness of the valley, and the rhythm of the monks' lives stays with them long after they leave. The pilgrimage, though physically exhausting, has renewed their spirits and brought them closer to the divine. For the monks, the pilgrimage is not just a way to serve the pilgrims, but a reminder of their own calling. Each guest who arrives at the monastery is a reminder of the purpose they have in the world, to offer peace, to guide others in their spiritual journey, and to live in harmony with the land. The monks are content in their isolation, knowing that their work is important, not for its visibility, but for its quiet, steady presence in the world. The monasteries of the Carpathians, with their ancient stones and mist-covered peaks, will continue to be places of pilgrimage for generations to come. They are not just sanctuaries of faith, but places where the land, the divine, and the human spirit meet in these quiet, sacred spaces. The monks continue their work, welcoming pilgrims and offering them the peace and solace they have found in their own lives of solitude and devotion. As we move further into the heart of the Carpathians, we arrive at one of the oldest monasteries in the region, a place that has seen centuries of history unfold within its stone walls. This monastery, with its ancient stones and humble exterior, is a silent witness to the passing of time. It has endured through wars, invasions, and the changing tides of history, remaining a steadfast beacon of peace amidst the turmoil of the world outside. The stones of this monastery, weathered and worn by the ages, seem to carry the weight of history within them. Every crack in the stone, every chipped corner, tells a story of monks who once walked these halls, of pilgrims who sought solace here, and of the countless prayers that have been offered over the centuries. The monastery's very foundation seems to hum with the energy of the past, its history alive in the air, in the walls, in the very ground beneath our feet. It is said that the monastery was founded in the 12th century by a group of monks who sought to escape the turmoil of the world outside. They chose this remote valley for its seclusion, its beauty, and its proximity to the divine. The monastery was built in a style that reflected the simplicity and austerity of monastic life. Stone walls, simple wooden beams, and a small chapel adorned with simple icons and candles. Over the years, the monastery has been expanded and renovated, but its core remains unchanged. It is still a place of prayer, of reflection, and of quiet work, where the monks live in harmony with the land and with God. As we walk through the monastery's grounds, it is clear that this is a place that has been carefully tended by the monks. The gardens, though simple, are lush with greenery, the herbs and flowers carefully cultivated for both medicinal and culinary purposes. The paths that wind through the grounds are lined with ancient trees, their gnarled branches reaching toward the sky. The stillness of the land is profound, broken only by the occasional sound of birds or the rustle of leaves in the breeze. There is a sense of timelessness here, as if the monastery is suspended in a space apart from the world, where the past and present coexist in quiet harmony. The monks who live here follow the same rhythm of life as those in other monasteries in the region: prayer, work, and contemplation. But there is something unique about this monastery, something that sets it apart from the others. The monks here have long been known for their deep connection to the land and to the ancient traditions of the Carpathians. They are not just caretakers of the monastery, they are stewards of the land, preserving the natural beauty and sacredness of the valley. Their lives are intertwined with the rhythms of the earth, and they understand the importance of maintaining a balance between their spiritual work and their connection to the land. The monastery's history is not just etched in its stones, it is also preserved in the oral traditions of the monks. The elders of the monastery, those who have lived here for decades, are the keepers of stories, tales passed down from generation to generation, each one adding to the rich tapestry of the monastery's past. These stories are not just about the monastery's founding, but about the monks who have lived here, the pilgrims who have passed through its gates, and the events that have shaped the course of history in this remote corner of the Carpathians. One of the most enduring stories of this monastery is that of its involvement in the defense of the region during times of war. Throughout history, the Carpathian Mountains have been a strategic location, coveted by invaders seeking to control the passes and the trade routes. The monks of this monastery, though living lives of peace and contemplation, were also known for their quiet resistance against invaders. It is said that during a particularly brutal invasion, the monks opened the gates of the monastery to local villagers, offering refuge and protection from the marauding armies. They used their knowledge of the land to guide the villagers through hidden mountain paths, helping them escape to safety. The monks' role in the defense of the region was not just one of protection, but of preservation. The monastery, with its vast library of ancient texts and sacred manuscripts, became a center of learning and spiritual knowledge during times of conflict. When the invading armies sought to destroy the sacred writings of the church, the monks hid their most valuable texts in the hidden chambers beneath the monastery, preserving them for future generations. Many of these texts, which include rare manuscripts of early Christian writings, are still housed in the monastery's library today and are carefully preserved by the monks. The stories of the monks' bravery, of their quiet strength and resilience, have become part of the monastery's legacy. They are not just remembered in the written records, but in the very atmosphere of the place. The monks who live here now continue to honor these traditions, maintaining the monastery's role as a sanctuary, not only for the soul, but for the preservation of knowledge and culture. As the day comes to a close and the light begins to fade over the valley, the monastery takes on a sense of quiet reverence. The monks gather for the evening prayers, their voices rising together in a chant that fills the chapel with a sense of peace. The sound of the bells tolling in the distance echoes through the valley, signaling the end of another day of work and devotion. Outside, the mist rises once more, shrouding the monastery in its ethereal embrace, as if protecting it from the world outside. In the stillness of the night, the monastery remains a quiet witness to the passage of time. The stones, trees, the paths, all of them carry the echoes of history, reminding those who visit of the monks who came before and the lives they lived. The monastery continues to stand, unwavering, in the heart of the Carpathians, a place where the past and present meet, and where the divine is found in the quiet rhythm of daily life. As night falls over the Carpathian monasteries, the world beyond the mountains seems a distant memory. The monastery, with its quiet stone walls and softly flickering candlelight, stands as a timeless reminder of the devotion that has shaped its existence. The monks, having completed their evening prayers, retreat to their humble cells, each carrying the peace of the day within them. The sound of their footsteps echoes in the corridors, but it quickly fades, leaving behind only the quiet hum of the night. Outside, the mist thickens, wrapping the monastery in its embrace, and the mountains stand silent, their peaks shrouded in the ever-present fog. The monastery's legacy is more than just the stones that make up its walls, or the rituals that are performed within its chapel. It is the living memory of those who have come here seeking solace, seeking peace, seeking a connection to something greater than themselves. Over the centuries, many have passed through these gates, some as pilgrims, others as seekers of truth, or healers of the soul, but all have left something behind: their prayers, their stories, their experiences, and the quiet mark of their presence in this sacred space. The monks who continue to live here, in the shadow of these ancient walls, do so with a profound understanding of their place in the monastery's long history. They are not simply caretakers of the land or of the sacred rituals. They are the latest in a long line of men who have dedicated their lives to preserving the traditions of this place. They are the living link to the monks who came before them, the ones who first carved the paths through the mountains, who built the stone walls and the chapel, and who laid the foundation for the monastery's role as a sanctuary for generations to come. In the stillness of the night, when the world seems to pause, it is easy to imagine the monastery as it once was: the laughter of pilgrims, the sound of footsteps on the stone floors, the soft murmur of prayers rising to the heavens. All of these echoes fill the spaces between the walls. Even in their absence, The stones themselves seem to carry the weight of these memories, absorbing the devotion, the love, and the sacrifice that have shaped the monastery's existence. And though the monks now live in a world that is far different from the one that existed when the monastery was founded, they are still connected to it in a deep and meaningful way. For the monks, life at the monastery is not about grand gestures or outward signs of achievement. It is about the quiet work of prayer, of meditation, and of tending to the land. The connection they share with the natural world is sacred, and it is through their simple daily labor that they express their devotion. The gardens, the fields, and the trees are not just sources of food or shelter. They are an extension of their spiritual practice. Each time they plant a seed, each time they gather the harvest, they are reminded of the divine hand that guides their lives, sustaining them in every moment. The Carpathian monasteries have long been a sanctuary for those who seek peace, but they also serve as a reminder of the fragility of life. The monks live here, in the shadow of the mountains, knowing that they are but a small part of a much larger story. Their lives are fleeting, and the world around them is constantly changing. Yet, within the walls of the monastery, time moves at its own pace, a pace that is not dictated by clocks or calendars, but by the rhythm of prayer and the cycles of nature. The monks, though isolated from the world, are not disconnected from it. The monastery serves as a beacon of light in a world that can often feel uncertain and chaotic. It is a place where people come to find peace, where the noise of the world fades away, and where the soul can find rest. Whether it is the pilgrims who make the long journey to the monastery, or the local villagers who come seeking a quiet place to reflect, all are welcomed with open arms, reminded that the monastery is a place of refuge for all who seek it. As the mist continues to rise over the Carpathian peaks, the monastery stands as a quiet sentinel, its light still shining, even in the darkness of the night. The monks rest in their cells, their hearts at peace, knowing that they are part of a tradition that will continue long after they are gone. The monastery is not just a place of worship, it is a living testament to the endurance of faith, of devotion, and of the deep connection between the land and the divine. In the end, the monastery's legacy is not just in the walls that have stood for centuries, but in the lives that have been touched by its presence. It is in the prayers offered within its chapel, the quiet walks taken through its gardens, and the simple acts of kindness and service that continue to define life in this sacred space. The Carpathian monasteries are not just monuments of the past. They are living, breathing places of peace, a reminder that in the quiet, still moments, we can find connection with something greater than ourselves. The curtain may fall for one act, but the stage is never empty for long. The lights shift, the air stirs, and a new scene emerges with more mystery than the last. This is the quiet temples of Bali, spiritual peace in the island's heart. On the lush island of Bali, where rice paddies ripple like green waves across the hills, and the air is rich with the scent of frangipani and incense, there are temples that seem to exist outside of time, hidden among the forests, perched on volcanic cliffs, or tucked into quiet villages. These temples are not the bustling tourist attractions of guidebooks, but the sacred heart of the island. Here life moves more slowly, and the rhythm of devotion is intertwined with the gentle pulse of nature, the whisper of the wind through the trees, the quiet splash of water in the temple ponds, the soft hum of prayers carried on the air. The temples of Bali are as varied as the island itself. Some are open-air courtyards, enclosed by carved stone walls and shaded by towering banyan trees. Others are perched high on cliffs, overlooking the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean, their spires reaching toward the sky as if to touch the heaven. Each temple, whether grand or modest, is a place of reflection, a sanctuary where the balance between humans, the gods, and nature is carefully maintained. These spaces are designed not for spectacle, but for stillness, a quiet invitation to pause, breathe, and feel the sacred rhythm that underlies all of life on the island. The journey to these quiet temples often begins in the villages, where narrow stone paths wind through rice paddies and coconut groves. Villagers move with calm purpose, tending their crops, collecting water, or preparing offerings for the gods. The air is filled with a subtle soundtrack of life, the rustle of leaves, the distant crow of a rooster, the occasional chime of a small gong from a temple bell. Even before the first steps are taken inside the temple walls, there is a sense of reverence in the land itself, a quiet suggestion that this is a place set apart, where the ordinary and the divine meet. The architecture of the temples is a reflection of Bali's spiritual philosophy. Stone walls are intricately carved with depictions of gods, demons, and mythical creatures, their forms telling stories that have been passed down through generations. The roofs, tiered and thatched, are built to harmonize with the surrounding landscape, as if the temples grow naturally out of the earth rather than being imposed upon it. Every detail, from the placement of a statue to the flow of water in a temple pool, is deliberate, intended to create a space of spiritual equilibrium. Even the smallest temple, tucked away in a quiet village, can feel expansive, offering a sense of connection that transcends the immediate environment. The rituals observed at these temples are quiet, deeply rooted in tradition, and often personal. Daily offerings of flowers, rice, and incense are placed on stone altars, carefully arranged to honor the gods and maintain balance in the world. The act of giving is not grand or ostentatious. It is humble, simple, yet filled with meaning. Monks or priests, dressed in white robes, move through the courtyards with measured steps, chanting prayers soft. Their voices rise and fall like the tide, a gentle cadence that merges with the natural sounds of the island, the wind, the rustle of palm fronds, and the distant crash of waves on volcanic cliffs. Visitors to these quiet temples are often struck by the sense of stillness that pervades the space. Unlike the crowded, heavily photographed temples popular with tourists, these hidden sanctuaries allow for uninterrupted reflection. Here one can sit for hours observing the daily rituals, watching the sun move across the sky, and noticing the subtle interplay between humans, animals, and the elements. Monkeys may wander through the courtyards, children may pause in curiosity, and the occasional devotee will kneel to offer prayers, their presence both gentle and grounding. In these moments, the tempo of the modern world seems distant, almost irrelevant. The temples are also deeply connected to the island's natural features. Water plays a central role in many of the sacred spaces, with ponds, streams, and fountains incorporated to symbolize life and purification. Sacred forests are often adjacent to the temple grounds, providing shade, shelter, and a sense of continuity with the natural world. Even the volcanic soil that forms the base of some temples is considered sacred, a reminder of the island's dynamic landscape and the raw forces that have shaped it over centuries. Devotees and monks alike often take quiet walks through the temple grounds, using the paths as spaces for meditation, reflection, or silent prayer. Each temple has its own character and history, often tied to the local village or to ancient legends. Some temples honor deities associated with the sea, their shrines perched high on cliffs to watch over fishermen and travelers. Others honor mountain gods, perched on volcanic slopes to draw spiritual power from the earth itself. Many of these temples have existed for centuries, maintained not through grand displays of wealth, but through the careful devotion of generations of villagers. Families often take responsibility for specific altars or sections of the temple, ensuring that traditions are preserved and that the offerings continue to be made daily. The quiet temples of Bali are, in essence, living spaces. They are not frozen in time, but evolve subtly with each season, each festival, and each day of devotion. The architecture and landscape adapt to the rhythms of rainfall, wind, and sun, while the people continue to honor the traditions of their ancestors. In the early morning, the mist may roll through the temple courtyards, softening the carved stone and filling the air with a sense of mystery. By afternoon, sunlight illuminates the offerings and the intricate reliefs, highlighting the careful artistry of generations past. As night falls, incense smoke curls through the air, and the quiet chants of prayer provide a lullaby that stretches across the island, connecting all who inhabit it in a shared rhythm of reverence. And these quiet temples, time moves differently. The focus is not on schedules, deadlines, or achievements, but on presence, reflection, and balance. Devotees, monks, and visitors alike find themselves attuned to the subtleties of the space, the gentle hum of prayer, the interplay of light and shadow, the rustling of leaves, and the distant calls of birds. It is in these moments that the spiritual heart of Bali reveals itself, offering calm perspective and a sense of connection that transcends language or culture. The sacredness of these temples is also intertwined with the rhythms of daily life. Villagers may pause on their way to work in the rice paddies to offer prayers or leave a small token at an altar. Monks and priests maintain their presence in the temples throughout the day, their rituals subtle yet constant. The island itself participates in this spiritual rhythm, from the volcanic peaks that rise above the temples to the rivers and streams that wind through the valleys. There is a quiet harmony here, a balance that is both physical and spiritual, and it is this harmony that defines the essence of Bali's sacred spaces. Walking through these quiet temples, one cannot help but notice the small details, the carved patterns on a stone pillar, the delicate placement of flowers on a shrine, the subtle tilt of a roof that echoes the contours of the surrounding landscape. Each element contributes to the sense of calm, of intention, and of spiritual continuity. It is as if every stone, every leaf, and every ripple in the water has been placed to remind visitors that this is a space for reflection, a sanctuary where the ordinary world can be left behind. The quiet temples of Bali are more than religious sites. They are refuges for the spirit, spaces where the pace of life slows and the connection to nature, community, and the divine becomes tangible. They invite visitors to slow their steps, soften their thoughts, and notice the rhythms of the world around them. In their stillness, they offer a profound sense of peace, a gentle, enduring pulse at the heart of the island that has inspired devotion, contemplation, and quiet wonder for centuries. As the day unfolds in Bali, the quiet temples awaken with the subtle energy of ritual and reverence. Each morning, long before the sun rises high over the rice terraces and the village streets, villagers begin their daily offerings. Small baskets woven from palm leaves are filled with flowers, rice, and incense, carefully arranged in patterns meant to honor the gods. These offerings, known as kanang, are placed on temple altars, at the foot of statues, or even along pathways and doorways, serving as both thanks and protection. Though these gestures are small, their significance is profound, reflecting a spiritual connection that permeates every corner of island life. The act of offering is deliberate and meditative. Villagers move slowly, mindful of each placement, each gesture. The flowers are arranged with precision, their colors chosen for harmony, their fragrance considered a gift to the divine. Rice is carefully poured into the baskets, symbolizing sustenance and life. Incense is lit, and its fragrant smoke curls upward, carrying prayers and intentions into the air. It is a daily dance of devotion, quiet yet purposeful, connecting the human, the natural, and the spiritual worlds. Within the temple walls, the sounds of morning prayers begin softly. Monks and temple priests, dressed in simple white robes, move with measured steps, chanting in gentle tones. The chanting is slow, almost hypnotic, allowing each word and syllable to settle in the air. It merges seamlessly with the natural sounds of the island, the chirping of birds, the distant crash of waves, and the rustle of palm fronds in the breeze. Visitors and devotees alike are drawn into the rhythm, their senses attuned to the sacred cadence of these early hours. Water, an essential element in Bali's spiritual practices, is present in many temples. Pools, fountains, and flowing streams are designed to symbolize purification and balance. Devotees may sprinkle themselves with water before entering sacred spaces, or wash their hands and faces as an act of preparation. The sound of water trickling over stones creates a quiet, soothing background, blending with the chants and prayers to create an atmosphere of contemplation and calm. Even the soft murmur of a nearby stream can feel like a living participant in the temple's sacred rhythms. Though the temple may be physically small, every space is used with intention. Stone carvings depict gods, demons, and mythical creatures, their forms rich with symbolism. Each carving tells a story, teaching lessons or reminding visitors of the balance between life, nature, and the spiritual world. Statues of gods sit serenely on altars, often adorned with delicate offerings left by the faithful. Every detail in the temple's design reflects a harmony with both the environment and the spiritual purpose of the space. The pace of life around the temples mirrors the calm within. Villagers move slowly, attending to daily chores, carrying baskets of offerings, or walking along the temple paths with quiet reverence. Children may be present, watching and learning the subtle movements and gestures of devotion. The atmosphere is peaceful, almost hypnotic, a stark contrast to the hurried pace of life in modern cities. Here, time is measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the movement of the sun, the flow of water, and the repetition of daily rituals. In the quiet corners of the temple, one may find solitary practitioners seated on stone steps, lost in meditation. Their presence is unobtrusive yet significant, a reminder that these temples are not only communal spaces but also sanctuaries for personal reflection. Some kneel, eyes closed, hands pressed together in prayer. Others walk slowly around the perimeter, stepping lightly, mindful of every footfall. The intention behind each movement is as important as the movement itself, creating a seamless flow of devotion that fills the temple with quiet energy. The temples also host occasional ceremonies, though in many smaller, quiet sanctuaries, these are intimate affairs, attended only by the local villagers. During these times, the rituals expand into a gentle choreography of music, incense, offerings, and prayers. The sound of small gongs and wooden percussion instruments accompanies the chanting, but always at a soft volume, preserving the temple's serene atmosphere. Even in ritual, the focus remains on contemplation and balance, never on spectacle. Animals, too, are often part of the temple's environment. Monkeys may wander along the stone pathways, careful not to disturb the offerings, while birds perch on carved pillars or flutter through the gardens. Their presence is neither intrusive nor unwelcome. It is a reminder that all life, human and non-human, is intertwined in the sacred fabric of the island. The natural world is not separate from the temple, but is woven into its very design, reinforcing the quiet harmony that defines the space. As the morning progresses, sunlight begins to filter through the trees and temple gates, casting soft patterns on the stone floors and walls. The interplay of light and shadow adds another layer of tranquility, highlighting the textures of carved stone, the vibrant colors of flowers, and the gentle movement of smoke from the incense. These visual elements, combined with the rhythms of ritual, water, and wind, create a multi-sensory experience of calm and reflection. The quiet temples of Bali, with their daily rituals and mindful practices, offer a sanctuary not only for the islanders, but for anyone who enters their gates. They are spaces where the ordinary and the spiritual converge, where the rhythms of nature and human devotion are in harmony. In these spaces, life slows, the mind quiets, and the heart is reminded of the beauty and interconnectedness of all things. The temple is not just a place of worship, it is a living meditation, a sanctuary for the spirit, and a quiet pulse at the center of the island's vibrant yet gentle life. Beyond the stone walls and intricately carved gates of Bali's quiet temples lie gardens that are as sacred as the shrines themselves. These gardens, carefully cultivated and thoughtfully arranged, are spaces for reflection, meditation, and quiet observation of the natural world. Paths wind between flowering shrubs, moss-covered stones, and small pools, creating a sense of balance and harmony that mirrors the spiritual practices within the temple walls. Here, nature itself becomes a companion in devotion, inviting visitors and devotees to slow their steps and soften their thoughts. The design of these gardens follows principles of balance, symmetry, and intention. Large tropical plants provide shade, their leaves creating dappled sunlight that moves gently across the stone pathways. Bamboo groves sway in the breeze, producing a soft rustle that blends with the distant hum of temple gongs and the calls of birds. Small ponds and fountains, their surfaces still or gently rippling, reflect the sky above, offering moments of quiet contemplation. In the reflection of the water, one can see not only the physical surroundings, but also a metaphorical reflection of the self, as if the garden itself is guiding a meditative journey. Every element of a temple garden has purpose. Stones are positioned to create focal points or to guide the flow of movement. Plants are chosen for their fragrance, color, or symbolic meaning. Frangipani for purity, hibiscus for delicate beauty, or lotus for spiritual awakening. Paths are constructed with care, sometimes leading to quiet alcoves where one can sit, undisturbed, listening to the sounds of the garden, the drip of water, the rustle of leaves, the occasional call of a bird. Even the placement of moss on stones is intentional, suggesting the slow, patient rhythm of nature and encouraging the visitor to notice small, often overlooked details. The gardens also serve as an extension of the temple rituals. Offerings of flowers may be placed on stones or in the water, creating a seamless integration between devotion and the natural world. The scent of incense mingles with the aroma of the plants, while small statues of deities are positioned among the foliage, reminding visitors of the interconnectedness of all life. Walking through these gardens, it becomes clear that the boundaries between human action, spiritual practice, and nature are fluid. The temple is not just a building, and the garden is not just a garden. Both are part of a living, breathing meditation. Monks and temple caretakers maintain the gardens with quiet diligence. Their movements are deliberate, unhurried, and filled with mindfulness. Trimming a shrub, arranging a stone, or sweeping the path becomes a spiritual exercise, a practice in patience and attention. In their care, the gardens thrive, remaining spaces of peace, even as the world outside the temple walls rushes forward. Every day, these caretakers ensure that the gardens continue to reflect the serenity of the temple itself, a sanctuary where both human and natural life are nurtured. The garden paths often lead to viewpoints or terraces that overlook the surrounding landscape. Here one can pause to see the temple in context, the village below, the rice terraces stretching across the hills, and the distant ocean or volcanoes that dominate the horizon. The view reminds visitors that the temple is part of a larger ecosystem, a node in a network of natural and human life. Even as one moves quietly through the temple grounds, there is a sense of continuity between the garden, the temple, and the island beyond. Small details within the gardens invite contemplation. A carefully stacked pile of stones may mark a spiritual boundary or serve as a small altar. A narrow bridge crossing a pond encourages slow movement, emphasizing awareness of each step. Birds that nest among the trees add a spontaneous rhythm to the otherwise deliberate calm. In these moments, the garden becomes more than a decorative space. It is a living environment, filled with subtle lessons about balance, patience, and mindfulness. Visitors often find that the garden's quietness encourages reflection on their own lives. The contrast between the slow, intentional rhythm of the temple and the hurried pace of the outside world is striking. In the shade of the trees, beside the still ponds, one can sit for hours, noticing the patterns in the leaves, the movement of light, or the gentle ripple of water. In doing so, the garden offers not only a connection to the spiritual practices of Bali, but also a personal space for contemplation and renewal. Even as the sun moves across the sky, casting ever-changing shadows on the temple paths, the gardens remain a space of stillness. The interplay of light and shadow mirrors the spiritual journey, moments of clarity, moments of quiet mystery, and the gentle rhythm of time passing. Each element of the garden, the stones, the plants, the water, works together to create an environment that supports meditation, reflection, and a deep sense of peace. The quiet gardens of Bali's temples are, in essence, sanctuaries within sanctuaries. They allow for a slower pace, a softening of the mind, and an intimate connection with both nature and the divine. Whether wandering along the paths, sitting beside a pond, or pausing beneath a tree, the visitor is invited to experience a rhythm of life that is deliberate, measured, and deeply restorative. In these gardens, the spiritual heart of Bali is revealed, not in grand ceremonies, but in the quiet harmony of nature, ritual, and reflection. While Bali is often celebrated for its vibrant ceremonies and festivals, many of the island's most sacred celebrations take place in quiet moments, away from crowds and spectacle. In the hidden temples, the rhythm of these subtle rituals unfolds with calm dignity, emphasizing reflection over display. Even during festival days, when offerings are more abundant and the temple is busier than usual, the focus remains on the intimate connection between the devotee, the gods, and the natural world. There is a hushed quality to the air, a rhythm that invites patience and attentiveness, a reminder that celebration need not be loud to be profound. During these quieter festivals, villagers arrive early, carrying baskets of offerings arranged with care and attention. The flowers are fresh and fragrant, the rice carefully portioned, and incense prepared to burn evenly, filling the temple with a gentle aroma. Even the placement of each offering is intentional, guided by principles handed down through generations. Children are often present, learning from their elders the art of offering, the subtle gestures, and the sacred rhythms of temple life. These young observers absorb not just the mechanics, but the spirit of devotion, the patience, mindfulness, and reverence that define Bali's spiritual culture. The ceremonies often begin with the soft tolling of temple bells, their deep, resonant tones echoing across the gardens and courtyards. Monks and priests move with slow, measured steps, chanting prayers in low, melodic tones. Unlike the crowded performances of tourist spectacles, here the focus is on subtlety, the hum of a chant, the gentle flicker of candlelight, the quiet movement of hands placing flowers and rice on the altars. Each gesture is deliberate, each motion a physical embodiment of devotion. Time seems to stretch, allowing the participants and observers to dwell fully in the present moment, attuned to the sacred rhythm of the ritual. Water plays a central role in these ceremonies. Small fountains, streams, and temple pools are used to cleanse the space and participants, symbolizing purification and renewal. Priests may sprinkle holy water over the offerings, over the devotees, or onto the temple grounds themselves, blending the sacred with the natural. The soft sound of water accompanies the chants and prayers, forming a quiet, continuous soundtrack that underlines the ceremony's spiritual purpose. Even the smallest movement of water ripples across a pond, drops falling from a leaf, feels charged with meaning, reminding everyone present of the interconnectedness of all life. During these quiet festivals, music is subdued and rhythmic rather than loud or celebratory. Soft gongs, bamboo flutes, and gentle percussion accompany the chanting, creating a gentle pulse that mirrors the slow breathing of the temple grounds. Every note is intentional, every pause meaningful, reinforcing the meditative atmosphere. Visitors often find themselves drawn into this rhythm, their minds slowing, their awareness widening to the small details. The curve of a leaf, the reflection of sunlight on water, the subtle movement of a devotee placing an offering. Even the natural surroundings participate in the ceremony. Trees sway gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling like whispers. Birds sing softly in the distance, punctuating the quiet chants. Sunlight filters through the canopy, illuminating flowers and stone carvings in shifting patterns. In these moments, the distinction between the human, the divine, and the natural seems to dissolve. The temple is not a separate space, it is part of the island itself, and the island in turn becomes part of the temple. Every element participates in the quiet dance of devotion, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree. Visitors who witness these subtle festivals often describe a profound sense of calm and presence. The ceremonies, though understated, invite reflection and mindfulness. There is no rush, no urgency, no spectacle demanding attention. Instead, there is a slow unfolding of ritual that allows each participant to absorb the sacredness in their own way. The focus is on being, on observing, on experiencing the gentle rhythms of devotion, and on connecting to the still, enduring heart of Bali. Even after the ceremonies end, the temple grounds retain their quiet energy. The soft scent of incense lingers in the air. The flower petals remain on the stone altars, and the gentle movements of the water continue. The temple does not rush to return to silence. It holds the energy of the ritual, allowing the peace and intention to permeate every corner. Visitors may linger, walking slowly along garden paths, noticing small details they might have missed before. A carved relief on a stone pillar, the alignment of stones in a shrine, the reflection of clouds in a temple pool. Each observation deepens the sense of presence and connection. The quiet festivals of Bali's temples remind us that devotion need not be loud, and celebration need not be chaotic. There is a richness in subtlety, a power in stillness, and a depth in attention to detail. The island, with its lush landscapes, Sacred architecture and mindful rituals offers a continuous invitation to slow down, breathe deeply, and experience the sacred in the ordinary. Here, every gesture, every movement, every breath becomes an offering, a meditation and a connection to something larger than oneself. As the sun begins to lower in the sky, casting long, gentle shadows across the temple grounds, the quiet festivals give way to the soft rhythms of evening. The gardens glimmer in the fading light, incense smoke curls gently into the cooling air, and the chanting subsides to a lingering hum. The temples of Bali, through their subtle celebrations and quiet devotion, continue to offer a space of peace and reflection, a sanctuary for all who seek the calm, the stillness, and the enduring heart of the island. Walking through the quiet temples of Bali, one cannot help but notice the intricate stone carvings that adorn nearly every surface. These carvings are not mere decoration, they are stories frozen in stone, silent teachers that communicate the island's spiritual heritage without words. From the small, modest shrines hidden in village corners to the towering temple gates overlooking rice terraces, each carving is deliberate, every symbol intentional, offering insight into the beliefs, myths, and values of Balinese culture. The gates of the temples, often framed by split stone pillars called candi bentar, are adorned with guardian figures. These carved forms, sometimes fierce, sometimes serene, are meant to protect the temple from negative influences, both physical and spiritual. Their eyes, still sharp in weathered stone, seem to watch quietly, keeping an invisible vigil over the temple grounds. Passing through these gates, visitors leave the mundane world behind and enter a space where sacred and natural realms are intertwined. Within the temple walls, stone reliefs depict scenes from ancient epics, such as the Ramayana or Mahabharata. Heroes, gods, and demons are carved with intricate detail, frozen in mid-action, yet their presence feels calm rather than chaotic in these quiet temples. The stories told in stone serve as both spiritual guidance and cultural memory, connecting present-day devotees to generations past. The carvings are weathered in places softened by decades of wind and rain, but their essence remains, a testament to the care and devotion of those who first shaped them. Smaller shrines within temple courtyards often feature deities in gentle poses, each associated with particular aspects of life: fertility, protection, prosperity, or harmony with nature. Offerings are left at their feet: petals, rice, and tiny incense sticks. The carvings, though silent, are alive in the sense that they continue to interact with the daily rituals of the temple. Every act of devotion is a response to the stone figures, a continuation of the stories they represent, and a connection to the divine forces they embody. The stones themselves carry the island's history. Volcanic rock from nearby mountains was often used, chosen for its durability and spiritual significance. Carvers would spend months, sometimes years, shaping a single piece, embedding symbolic meaning into every curve, line, and expression. The work required not only skill but patience, mindfulness, and a deep understanding of spiritual principles. The result is an enduring dialogue between human intention, natural material, and spiritual purpose, a conversation that continues quietly today as visitors trace their fingers along carved reliefs or pause to study the subtle details of a guardian figure. Pathways throughout the temples are also lined with stone markers, each etched with symbols or short inscriptions. These markers guide devotees along the ritual route, reminding them of the spiritual steps they are taking. Even as the eye moves over the worn surfaces, the carvings convey a sense of movement and intention. Here is a story of balance, here a lesson of humility, here a depiction of cosmic forces in harmony. And these quiet spaces, learning and reflection, are gentle, contemplative, and continuous. The interplay of light and shadow is equally important in these stone spaces. As the sun moves across the sky, sunlight filters through temple openings, casting shifting patterns on the carvings. Shadows lengthen and shorten, revealing new details at different times of day. In the early morning, the carvings may appear soft and ethereal, while the late afternoon sun can highlight their depth and texture. This ever-changing light encourages repeated observation and ongoing contemplation, reinforcing the temple's role as a living space of reflection. Moss and lichen often grow along the surfaces of the stone, softening its edges and blending the man-made with the natural. These subtle touches remind visitors that the temple is not separate from the land, but part of a larger ecosystem. The carvings do not dominate their surroundings. They exist in harmony with the gardens, the trees, the flowing water, and the sky above. Nature and human artistry exist together, quietly reinforcing the principles of balance and interconnectedness that underpin Balinese spirituality. Visitors may also notice small inscriptions marking the contributions of families or temple caretakers. These are gentle reminders that the temple is maintained through communal devotion and continuity. The stones are both art and record, preserving not only religious symbolism but also the social and cultural connections that sustain the temple over generations. Each carving is a layer of memory, a testament to the careful, persistent attention of those who maintain the sacred space. Even without understanding every story depicted in the stone, a visitor can sense the intention behind the work. The carvings demand stillness and attention, inviting quiet observation. They speak not in a rush of information, but in the patient, enduring language of stone. Each line, curve, and figure encourages reflection, allowing the observer to slow their thoughts and attune to the rhythms of the temple. The stones themselves become a form of meditation, a slow, mindful conversation with the past, the divine, and the natural world. In the quiet temples of Bali, the stones are teachers, guardians, and witnesses. They connect generations, link human devotion to nature, and frame the sacred rhythms of daily life. Each carving is a reminder that spirituality is not only found in action, prayer, or words, but also in patience, presence, and the subtle beauty of crafted stone in harmony with the world around it. As the afternoon sun moves higher, the quiet temples of Bali begin to reveal another layer of their serene beauty, sound, or more accurately, the careful orchestration of gentle sound that accompanies spiritual practice. Unlike the bustling temples known to tourists, these secluded sanctuaries maintain an auditory environment that is soft, rhythmic, and meditative. The chime of a small bell, the soft gurgle of a fountain, and the faint rustle of palm fronds in the wind combine to create a soundscape that invites reflection, focus, and inner calm. Temple bells are a constant presence, rung at measured intervals to mark periods of prayer or ritual. Their tones are deep and resonant, yet never harsh, vibrating through the stone corridors and gardens in a slow, calming cadence. The ringing is not meant to summon crowds or create spectacle. It is a gentle signal to pause, to attune one's mind and spirit to the sacred space. As the sound fades into the surrounding air, it lingers like a soft thread, connecting the temple's architecture, the devotee, and the natural environment in one subtle, continuous moment of awareness. Incense also contributes to the temple's quiet symphony. As it burns, it releases a soft, fragrant smoke that drifts lazily through courtyards and along garden paths. The sound here is almost imperceptible, the faint hiss of burning, the whisper of air carrying the scent, but it amplifies the sense of stillness, creating an atmosphere of gentle contemplation. The smoke curls and dances in the sunlight, its movement echoing the slow, deliberate rhythm of prayers and offerings. Inhaling this scented air, visitors often report a quieting of thought, a slowing of the mind that allows for deeper focus and reflection. Water, ever present in temple gardens and courtyards, provides a soft, constant backdrop. Small streams trickle over stone edges, fountains spill into reflecting pools, and ponds ripple gently with the breeze. The sound of water is a steady pulse, grounding the space in the natural rhythms of the island. It encourages a slower pace, inviting visitors to walk carefully, listen attentively, and observe with mindfulness. When paired with the low hum of chanting from monks or devotees, water transforms into a gentle meditation tool, reminding those present of the ongoing flow of life and the subtle interconnections between all things. Even silence itself is purposeful within these temples. The pauses between bells, between chants, and between the movements of people and nature are as significant as the sounds themselves. Silence allows reflection, offering space for thought and introspection. In these moments, visitors can hear the faintest rustle of leaves, the distant crash of ocean waves, or the footsteps of a devotee walking slowly along a temple path. Each sound, each pause, is an integral part of the temple's quiet rhythm, reinforcing the sense that the sacred can be found in attentive listening as much as in outward action. The interplay of sound and architecture is also intentional. Courtyards are designed to carry the resonance of voices and instruments in a gentle, harmonious manner. Stone walls and open-air gates allow chants and temple bells to spread subtly, without overwhelming the senses. Visitors may notice how a whispered prayer can echo softly across a courtyard, or how the gentle splash of water is amplified in a way that enhances calm, rather than creating distraction. Every auditory element is considered in balance with the visual and spiritual aspects of the temple. Visitors often find that spending time in this quiet, sonically rich environment encourages a deepening of awareness. Even without participating in rituals or offerings, the simple act of listening, the attentive observation of sound, silence, and natural rhythms becomes a form of meditation. The mind, unhurried, begins to settle, and the heart attunes to the gentle pulse of the temple. It is a subtle, understated form of connection, one that can be just as profound as more overt religious practices. Monks and devotees themselves move and speak with this auditory mindfulness. Each step, each gesture, and each breath is part of the temple's soundscape. Their soft chants, careful placement of offerings, and measured movements blend seamlessly with the natural sounds of the island. In these quiet temples, life and devotion are inseparable from the environment, creating a holistic experience in which sound, silence, and presence form a continuous loop of awareness. Even as the sun lowers toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the courtyards and gardens, the temple remains alive with sound. The bells toll intermittently, the water continues its gentle movement, and the faint hum of the surrounding forest and sea provides a subtle accompaniment. There is a sense that time itself has slowed, that the temple exists in a different rhythm than the world beyond its gates. In this slowed time, visitors find space for reflection, for listening, and for a quiet understanding of the interconnectedness of life, nature, and spirit. The quiet soundscape of Bali's temples is an invitation to move softly, to listen deeply, and to inhabit the present moment fully. It is not the loud declaration of devotion that defines these spaces, but the gentle, ongoing awareness of the sacred in every subtle sound, every pause, and every breath. In these moments, the temple is not merely a structure, it is a living meditation, a sanctuary for the senses, and a heart of spiritual stillness at the center of the island. As the day winds toward evening, the quiet temples of Bali take on a different kind of beauty. The late afternoon sun spills across the stone courtyards, casting long, soft shadows and bathing the gardens in a warm, golden glow. This is the time when many temples hold their sunset ceremonies, subtle yet deeply meaningful rituals that mark the close of the day and the transition into evening reflection. Unlike the louder festivals seen elsewhere, these ceremonies are calm, deliberate, and meditative, inviting all present to slow down and connect with the rhythms of nature and the divine. During the sunset rituals, devotees arrive with offerings, flowers, rice, and incense placed carefully on small trays or woven baskets. The flickering light of the setting sun illuminates each offering, highlighting the colors of petals, the smooth surface of stones, and the delicate curl of incense smoke. The movement of light over the temple grounds enhances the sense of sacredness, creating a visual rhythm that complements the quiet chants and soft tones of temple bells. Even the smallest gesture, such as laying a flower on an altar or lighting a candle, seems magnified in significance as the sun descends. Monks and temple caretakers perform the rituals with measured grace. Their movements are slow and purposeful, as if time itself has paused to accommodate the ceremony. Hands are folded in prayer, offerings are placed precisely, and incense is lifted with care so that its smoke rises evenly into the evening air. The cadence of the chants matches the fading light, soft and melodic, creating a gentle bridge between day and night. In this environment, visitors often find themselves reflecting silently, attuned not only to the ceremony but also to the natural world surrounding the temple. The whisper of wind in the trees, the distant call of birds returning to roost, and the subtle lapping of water in temple ponds or nearby streams. The gardens play an essential role during sunset ceremonies. Flowering plants seem to glow in the soft light, while small pools reflect the sky and the temple structures above, doubling the sense of space and tranquility. Shadows lengthen across stone pathways, and even the carved reliefs on temple walls take on new dimensions, their details accentuated by the angled sunlight. Every element, the stones, the water, the foliage, the figures performing rituals, contributes to a harmonious environment that is both visually and spiritually soothing. Visitors may notice the way the temple itself interacts with the changing light. Open-air courtyards allow sunlight to pass freely, highlighting different sections at different moments. Gates, pillars, and statues catch the golden glow, and the interplay of light and shadow creates an ever-changing scene that mirrors the impermanence and fluidity central to Balinese spiritual philosophy. Even the smallest observation, a petal falling into a pond, a ripple across the water, becomes imbued with meaning in this tranquil, reflective environment. The soundscape of the sunset ceremonies is as integral as the visual beauty. Bells toll softly at intervals. The chants of monks rise and fall with a natural rhythm, and the gentle sounds of nature provide a continuous, subtle backdrop. The rustling of leaves, the distant crash of waves, and the occasional call of a bird blend seamlessly with the ritual sounds, creating an immersive experience of calm. Here, sound is not just decoration. It is part of the meditation, part of the environment, and part of the ongoing dialogue between humans, the divine, and nature. These ceremonies, though understated, mark a daily rhythm that has persisted for generations. They honor the passage of time, acknowledge the balance between light and dark, and provide a structured moment for gratitude and reflection. Even for visitors, Unfamiliar with the details of Balinese spirituality, the sunset rituals convey a universal sense of serenity, grounding, and connection. In the quiet of the temple, the fading light, the gentle chants, and the deliberate placement of offerings work together to create a deep, almost tangible sense of presence. The fading sun also emphasizes the transient beauty of the temple grounds. What was illuminated by morning and afternoon light now transforms into a space of soft contrasts and muted colors. Shadows stretch across stone carvings, pools of water reflect the glowing sky, and incense smoke curls upward in thin, delicate streams. In these moments, it becomes evident that the temple is not static. It changes with the light, the wind, and the rhythms of daily life, reflecting the impermanent nature of all things. As the sun disappears behind the horizon, the temple settles into the cool embrace of evening. Candles and oil lamps are lit, casting a gentle glow across the courtyard. The final chants and prayers of the day echo softly, mingling with the nocturnal sounds of the island. Insects beginning their nightly chorus, birds settling into roosts, and the distant rhythm of the sea. There is a sense of closure and completion, a reminder that each day, like each ritual, is part of a continuous cycle, and that stillness and reflection are as important as movement and activity. The sunset ceremonies of Bali's quiet temples offer more than ritual. They provide a space to observe, breathe, and connect. Light, sound, and movement combine to create an environment that encourages calm, reflection, and inner harmony. Visitors leave these temples carrying a sense of balance, a quiet awareness of the sacred, and the gentle reminder that peace can be found not in grand gestures, but in the careful attention to daily rituals and the slow rhythms of life. As night settles over the island, the quiet temples of Bali become enveloped in a gentle, meditative calm. The gardens, previously illuminated by the fading light of the sunset, now exist in soft shadow. The outlines of stone carvings and statues, barely visible yet still profoundly present. Candles and small oil lamps cast a warm glow on altars and pathways, their flickering light creating subtle movements that seem almost alive. The air is scented with lingering incense, the soft fragrance a gentle reminder of the day's devotion, and the occasional breeze carries the faint sounds of rustling leaves or distant waves. Nighttime, in these temples, is not a pause, but a continuation of their sacred rhythm. Monks and temple caretakers move quietly through the grounds, performing small tasks or checking offerings with deliberate care. Each movement is soft and respectful, reinforcing the temple's sense of stillness. Even the natural world participates in this nocturnal harmony. Insects hum softly, small animals scurry unseen, and the trees sway with gentle rhythm, adding subtle life to the quiet spaces. The temple is alive, but in a gentle, understated way, its energy persistent, calm, and restorative. The night also invites personal reflection. Visitors and devotees alike may find themselves sitting on stone steps or benches, absorbing the soft light, the muted sounds, and the pervasive sense of balance. In these moments, the temple functions as a sanctuary not only for ritual, but also for introspection. The quiet encourages a slowing of thought, a mindful awareness of each breath, and a softening of the mind's constant chatter. Even without participating in structured ceremonies, one can feel the presence of centuries of devotion, a subtle yet enduring spiritual rhythm that permeates every corner of the temple grounds. Water, ever present in Bali's sacred spaces, continues its gentle song at night. Pools and ponds reflect the soft lamplight, rippling with faint movement, while small fountains trickle steadily, creating a background of quiet, continuous sound. The interplay of water, stone, and light reinforces a sense of harmony, reminding all who are present that the elements themselves are part of the sacred dialogue. The temple, in this way, functions as an ecosystem of balance, where human intention and natural presence coexist seamlessly. The carvings and statues, even in darkness, retain their silent power. Shadows enhance their depth, giving them a quiet gravitas. The figures of gods and guardians seem almost to breathe in the dim light, their presence a reminder of protection, guidance, and the continuity of spiritual practice. Each element, the carved stone, the flowers, the gentle incense smoke, works in harmony to create a space that is not only physically serene, but also emotionally and spiritually nurturing. Even the layout of the temple supports this calm. Pathways are designed for slow, intentional movement. Courtyards open into secluded corners and alcoves, each space offering an opportunity for solitude or quiet observation. The architecture and gardens guide visitors without intrusion, fostering a natural flow that encourages mindfulness. In these spaces, it is easy to become aware of subtle details: the delicate curve of a stone, the soft reflection of a candle in a pool of water, the distant sound of wind moving through the trees. All of these elements combine to create an immersive, meditative experience. As the hours pass, the temple remains a constant in the quiet night. The lights, the incense, and the gentle rhythms of caretakers and monks sustain a continuous presence of devotion. Even after the last visitors have left, the temple continues its work of stillness, maintaining its sacred energy for those who will arrive with the new day. This ongoing cycle of light, shadow, sound, and ritual ensures that the temple is never empty in spirit, even if it is physically quiet. The eternal calm of Bali's temples is also reflected in their relationship to the island itself. The surrounding forests, rice terraces, and volcanic peaks contribute to the sense of peace, their presence reinforcing the temple's connection to the larger ecosystem. The sound of distant waves, the rustle of leaves, and the quiet life of the nocturnal forest create a natural symphony that harmonizes with the human practices within the temple. In this way, the temples are not isolated. They are integrated fully with the land, the water, and the sky, forming a holistic sanctuary for all who enter. In the end, the quiet temples of Bali offer more than architecture or ritual. They provide a refuge from the pace of modern life, a space where devotion, nature, and contemplation merge. They teach that peace is not found in loud expressions or grand gestures, but in attentive awareness, deliberate care, and the gentle rhythms of daily practice. Visitors who spend time here leave with a sense of serenity that lingers long after they depart, a quiet pulse that continues to resonate in their thoughts and movement. The temples stand as living symbols of balance, harmony, and mindfulness, a reminder that the sacred can be found in stillness, in reflection, and in the patient cultivation of both spiritual and natural beauty. Even in their quietest moments, they radiate calm, offering a steady, enduring presence at the heart of the island. One tale may end, but history never leaves us empty-handed. The moment one door shuts, another creaks open, spilling out a stranger secret, a darker echo, and a path we can't resist following. This is the woodlands of the Black Forest, whispering pines and hidden paths. Deep within the southwestern reaches of Germany lies the Black Forest, a landscape of dense woods, misty valleys, and ancient pines that seem to whisper with the wind. The forest, known locally as Schwarzwald, stretches for hundreds of kilometers, its dark canopy concealing winding paths, hidden streams, and secluded clearings where sunlight filters through in fleeting golden patches. While the forest has long been the subject of legends and fairy tales, there is a quiet reality here, one of solitude, observation, and the slow rhythm of life unfolding under the sheltering trees. As one enters the black forest, the first thing that becomes apparent is the density of the woodland. Tall pines and firs dominate, their branches interlocking to create a natural roof that filters light and softens sound. The forest floor is a mosaic of fallen needles, moss, and leaf litter, with narrow paths winding in seemingly haphazard ways, each leading to places that feel deliberately hidden from the outside world. The air is cool and fragrant, heavy with the scent of pine resin and earth, a grounding reminder of the slow, persistent life cycles at work here. Walking these paths, it is easy to feel both the weight and the depth of the forest. Every step is cushioned by the soft layers of moss and needles, and each movement is accompanied by the quiet creak of branches swaying or the distant call of birds. Streams trickle gently along their courses, their waters clear and constant, and in the misty undergrowth, small animals move silently, unseen yet palpably present. The forest feels alive in a way that is subtle, rather than obvious, its energy quiet, persistent, and slightly mysterious. The Black Forest has long been home to secluded communities, hunters, and woodcrafters. Small huts and villages, often constructed from local timber, dot the woodland's edges, but many remain hidden, blending seamlessly into the landscape. These settlements were built to coexist with the forest, their inhabitants relying on its resources for timber, food, and fuel. Paths carved into the earth connected communities, but they also served as quiet corridors for reflection, observation, and daily work. Even today, one can follow these paths and sense the centuries of human presence carefully intertwined with the forest's natural growth. Among the forest's most striking features are its pines. Towering and resilient, these trees dominate the landscape, their straight trunks creating a rhythmic visual pattern that is both calming and slightly imposing. The forest's name, Black Forest, originates from the dense canopy of evergreens, which casts deep shadows on the woodland floor, lending the forest an air of solemnity. The pines themselves seem to whisper as the wind passes through, a subtle, ongoing conversation with anyone walking beneath their branches. Their needles rustle softly, producing a hypnotic soundscape that encourages quiet reflection, slow movement, and attentive observation. Hidden within the Black Forest are clearings, glades where sunlight breaks through and illuminates the moss, ferns, and wildflowers that flourish in these rare open spaces. These clearings are often small and easy to miss, yet they serve as natural resting points, places to pause and absorb the forest's atmosphere. Here, one can sit on a fallen log or a moss-covered stone, listening to the subtle sounds of life. The drip of water from leaves, the buzz of insects, or the distant rustle of deer moving through the underbrush. Time seems to stretch in these spaces, slowing the rhythm of the day and allowing the mind to settle into the forest's quiet pace. Many of the forest paths follow natural waterways. Small brooks and creeks wind through the pines, their courses sometimes marked by stone embankments or wooden bridges, subtle signs of human adaptation to the landscape. The presence of water adds an auditory layer to the forest's quiet, the soft babbling of streams blending with the whispers of the trees. These water paths also serve as lifelines for wildlife, supporting birds, fish, and mammals in the dense woodland. Walking along a stream, one can observe the interconnection of life, the careful balance maintained between flora, fauna, and human presence over centuries. The forest's dense shadows and hidden corners have historically inspired legends, from tales of forest spirits to whispered stories of hidden hermits. But beyond the myths lies a tangible calm. The Black Forest is a space of quiet solitude where visitors can move at their own pace, reflect, and immerse themselves in the natural rhythms of the woodland. Even in the absence of dramatic scenery or grand landmarks, there is an unmistakable sense of presence, a subtle, enveloping peace that comes from being surrounded by living, breathing forest. As one moves deeper into the woods, the density increases and the light filters in even more softly, creating an almost cathedral-like atmosphere. The smell of damp earth mingles with pine resin, and the soundscape becomes layered with soft noises. The creak of branches, the call of distant birds, and the faint rustle of animals in the undergrowth. Every sense is engaged, but in a gentle, unhurried way, encouraging attentiveness and calm observation. The forest invites a slow pace, a mindful journey through its hidden paths, and a quiet dialogue between the walker and the woodland. The Black Forest is also home to patches of old-growth trees, ancient pines and firs that have stood for centuries. These venerable trees carry a sense of history within their bark and branches, a silent testimony to the passage of time. Walking beneath them, one can sense the persistence of life, the cycles of growth and decay, and the patient unfolding of nature's rhythms. In these spaces, the forest feels almost sacred, a quiet sanctuary where the ordinary concerns of life are softened by the enormity and continuity of the natural world. Even in its quietest corners, the forest is dynamic. Sunlight shifts through the canopy, shadows lengthen and shorten, and the subtle movements of leaves, water, and wildlife create a constant, low-energy rhythm. It is a space where attention is drawn, not to grand gestures but to minute details, the pattern of moss on a stone, the flight of a bird, the ripple of water over pebbles. Observing these small elements encourages a gentle presence, a slowing of thought, and an awareness of the ongoing cycles of life that continue quietly under the forest canopy. The paths of the Black Forest, winding and often hidden, lead to places that are intentionally secluded, small shrines, glades, and resting spots where generations of walkers, woodcutters, and villagers have paused to breathe, reflect, or leave offerings. These subtle interventions enhance the forest's sense of rhythm and purpose, allowing visitors to move through the landscape with mindfulness, aware of both the natural and human histories embedded within the woodland. Even as evening approaches, the forest maintains its calm. The air cools, the shadows deepen, and the whispers of the pines become more pronounced in the quiet. Animals retreat, water reflects the fading light, and the forest seems to settle, its presence gentle yet enduring. It is in this quieting of the day that the Black Forest reveals its full character, not as a place of dramatic scenery or sudden revelations, but as a living, breathing landscape of slow rhythms, hidden paths, and enduring calm. Moving deeper into the Black Forest, the main paths give way to narrower, less traveled trails. These hidden routes wind between dense clusters of pines and firs, following the subtle contours of the land. Unlike the well-worn roads that lead to villages or popular viewpoints, these paths feel intentionally secluded, as if the forest itself has guided travelers into quieter spaces. Walking here requires attentiveness. Roots and stones form natural obstacles, while low-hanging branches encourage careful, measured steps. The sense of isolation, far from unsettling, is deeply calming, offering a space to become attuned to the forest's rhythms and sounds. The undergrowth along these hidden paths is thick, composed of ferns, moss, and low shrubs that blanket the forest floor in shades of green. Patches of wildflowers appear occasionally, their soft colors bright against the muted tones of the pine needles and earth. Light filters through the canopy above in scattered beams, spotlighting sections of the path in a way that seems almost deliberate, as though the forest is inviting careful observation and slow, meditative walking. Each step encourages mindfulness, a conscious awareness of the land beneath one's feet, the air around, and the quiet pulse of life in the surrounding woods. Streams often accompany these trails, weaving through the undergrowth and over moss-covered stones. The water moves with quiet persistence, its soft gurgle forming a subtle soundtrack that complements the rustle of needles and the occasional call of a distant bird. Crossing a stream requires careful stepping along the slippery rocks or fallen logs, an act that brings a heightened sense of presence. In these moments, the boundary between observer and forest begins to blur. The forest feels alive, responsive, and interconnected with every step, breath, and glance. Hidden paths also reveal small clearings and natural alcoves, places where travelers can pause without being seen from other areas. Here, the air is slightly warmer, the sounds of the forest more contained, and the sense of solitude deeper. Many of these spaces carry the traces of past visitors. A carefully stacked pile of stones, a small marker carved into bark, or remnants of a resting place. These subtle human touches are integrated seamlessly with the natural environment, suggesting respect for the forest's rhythm rather than domination over it. They are reminders that the forest is both a living landscape and a shared space, carrying the quiet memory of those who have passed before. As the paths wind further, the forest's density intensifies. The pines grow closer together, their straight trunks creating a rhythm that draws the eye upward. Shafts of light pierce the canopy in narrow beams, illuminating dust particles, moss, or a stray bird in flight. The forest feels cathedral-like in these moments, each tree a pillar, each clearing a sanctuary, and each sound a quiet hymn. Even the smallest motion, the twitch of a branch in the breeze, or the scurry of a small mammal, becomes significant, a reminder of life continuing quietly all around. These hidden paths have historically connected remote communities, shepherding herders, hunters, and woodcutters through the dense forest. The trails often follow natural ridges, valleys, or waterways, revealing a deep understanding of the land's contours. Over centuries, the forest and its paths have been shaped by both natural forces and human activity, creating a layered landscape that tells stories of survival, adaptation, and coexistence. Walking these trails today, one is aware of the invisible presence of generations who have moved quietly through the same spaces. The forest also subtly shifts as one moves along these paths. The types of trees may change slightly. Patches of ferns give way to moss-covered rocks, and small streams may appear or disappear. This variation in the environment encourages attentiveness, inviting walkers to notice subtle differences and embrace a pace that matches the forest's slow, deliberate rhythm. It is not a place of hurried observation, but of prolonged attention, where the mind can slow and the senses can sharpen in quiet awareness. Wildlife, though often unseen, adds to the forest's presence. Birds perch in high branches, occasionally singing a note or flitting from tree to tree. Squirrels and other small mammals move through the undergrowth, leaving faint sounds of movement or rustling leaves. These subtle signs of life remind travelers that the forest is inhabited, and that every path, no matter how secluded, exists within a living ecosystem. Observing without intruding becomes a practice in patience and respect, enhancing the forest's tranquil effect on the mind. Even the air along these hidden paths carries a quiet energy. The scent of pine resin, damp earth, and moss creates an immersive atmosphere that is both grounding and meditative. Cool breezes move through the trees, shifting layers of mist and leaves, adding a dynamic yet gentle rhythm to the stillness. Walking here becomes a multi-sensory experience, where sight, sound, smell, and touch converge, heightening awareness while also encouraging relaxation and reflection. The hidden trails of the Black Forest, though less traveled, offer a richness unmatched by more accessible areas. They provide a space to engage with the forest on its own terms, to witness its subtle rhythms, and to experience the quiet interconnection between land, life, and time. Every turn in the path, every change in light, every whisper of wind is part of a continuous, gentle lesson in patience, observation, and serenity. As evening approaches and the light softens, these paths become even more magical. Shadows lengthen, the temperature drops slightly, and the forest hums with a quieter energy. The subtle interplay of light and darkness, movement and stillness, human presence and natural life creates a calm that is difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. Walking these hidden paths, one finds a unique kind of peace, a deep connection with the forest, and a slowing of time itself. Following the narrower trails deeper into the Black Forest, one is eventually guided toward its quiet waterways. These streams and brooks, often hidden beneath thick layers of moss and ferns, form the subtle lifeblood of the woodland. They wind between tree roots, slip beneath fallen logs, and weave their way into valleys where the air feels cooler, softer, and more hushed. Their sound is constant yet never overwhelming, a delicate gurgle that blends with the whispering of the pines overhead, forming a gentle duet of water and wind. The forest floor near these streams feels different, damp, springy, alive with moss that cushions each step. Stones, smoothed by centuries of flowing water, create small cascades that break the surface into ripples and bubbles. Sunlight, filtering down through breaks in the canopy, glints off the water's surface, creating brief flashes of brightness in an otherwise shaded landscape. These small movements, both visual and auditory, encourage pause. Sitting by such a stream, the forest reveals its slow, patient tempo, reminding visitors that even the smallest trickle of water carries persistence and purpose. Wildlife is drawn to these streams. Birds descend quietly to drink, leaving only the faintest rustle of feathers. Small fish, almost invisible against the pebbled bottoms, flicker in and out of sight. With subtle movements, deer and other forest animals may pass through at dawn or dusk, their presence presentable only by a broken twig or a ripple in the water. For the attentive walker, the streams become not only sources of refreshment, but also windows into the hidden lives of the woodland's inhabitants. Many of the forest's older paths deliberately follow these waterways. Early villagers, hunters, and woodcutters would have relied on them for orientation, sustenance, and ease of travel. Evidence of this remains in the occasional stone embankment, a small wooden bridge softened by moss or remnants of human tools left behind. These traces, subtle and unobtrusive, are reminders of how human life once intertwined with the natural flow of the forest, adapting to it rather than attempting to dominate it. The presence of water changes the soundscape of the forest, where the pines whisper in a soft, airy rhythm. The streams provide a lower, continuous hum. The two sounds interweave, producing a layered calm that enhances reflection. Travelers along these waterways often find themselves slowing their pace, drawn into listening, watching, and noticing the details of light, movement, and sound. The streams seem to encourage a different kind of attentiveness, one rooted not in searching for spectacle but in appreciating subtleties. The Black Forest's waterways also reflect the passing of time. In spring, the streams swell with melted snow, rushing more energetically through the valleys. In summer, they become slower, their flow more subdued, offering shallow pools where insects skim the surface. In autumn, leaves drift onto the water, floating in slow spirals before settling on the bottom. In winter, frost clings to the moss and ice fringes the stones, transforming the streams into hushed ribbons of glass. Each season alters the character of the waterways, but their persistence remains unchanged. For those who linger beside these murmuring streams, the forest's quiet teachings become clearer. The movement of water through stone and soil is steady, deliberate, and unhurried. It mirrors the patience required to walk the hidden paths, to observe the subtle play of light and shadow, and to recognize the interconnections between forest, water, and life. The streams, like the pines, are part of the Black Forest's voice, gentle, enduring, and quietly instructive. As evening approaches, mist sometimes gathers near these waterways, rising softly from the cool earth and drifting through the trees. The air becomes heavier, the sound of water more resonant in the stillness, and the forest takes on a hushed, almost dreamlike quality. Walking here at such an hour, with the streams murmuring beside the path and the pines whispering above, the Black Forest reveals its deepest calm. At the margins of the Black Forest, small villages have long existed in quiet companionship with the trees. These settlements, often built from local timber and stone, seem to rise naturally from the landscape, blending into the woodland rather than intruding upon it. Their rooftops, steep and shingled, are designed to withstand heavy snows, while their courtyards open toward gardens or fields carved from the forest's edge. Life here has always been slow, shaped less by the demands of the outside world and more by the rhythms of the woods themselves. Walking into one of these villages, one is greeted not by the bustle of crowded streets, but by the gentle sounds of daily work. Smoke drifts lazily from chimneys, carrying with it the scent of wood fires and freshly baked bread. The creak of wagon wheels or the soft bleating of goats might be the loudest interruptions to the quiet. Beyond that, there is little noise save for the forest itself, the whisper of pines, the rustle of branches, and the faint calls of birds that hover between the village and the trees. Many of these communities were historically sustained by the forest's resources. Timber cutting was central, but always carried out with a degree of restraint, for the villagers understood that their survival depended on the balance between what they took and what the land could continue to provide. Wood was used for homes, tools, and heating, while surplus often found its way to neighboring towns. Honey, herbs, and wild berries gathered from the undergrowth supplemented the modest crops grown in small fields cleared nearby. The forest was both larder and livelihood, but it was also a neighbor to be respected. The architecture of these villages reflects this balance. Houses were large and sturdy, often designed to accommodate both family and livestock under one roof, a practical measure during harsh winters. Wide eaves shielded walls from snow and rain, while deep cellars stored food for the long, cold months. Inside, the smell of resinous wood mixed with smoke and earth, a constant reminder of the material the forest provided. Villages were laid out with simplicity, clusters of homes surrounding a church, a central square, and perhaps a small inn for travelers. The rest was left to the fields, gardens, and the ever-present woodland. Even today, remnants of these villages can be found tucked away along forgotten roads. Some are still inhabited, their traditions carefully preserved by families who trace their roots back through centuries. Others are abandoned, their wooden frames sagging, their beams blackened with age, and their gardens overtaken by brambles. In either case, the presence of these villages adds another layer of meaning to the Black Forest. They are markers of human endurance, adaptation, and quiet persistence at the edge of a vast and often intimidating landscape. Life in these communities was never easy. Winters were long, isolating, and demanding. Roads were often impassable, and food supplies needed to be carefully rationed until spring. Yet, there was a quiet resilience born of such challenges. Families gathered close to the fire, stories were told to pass the time, and songs echoed softly in the evenings, reminding everyone that community was as vital to survival as bread or wood. In this way, the forest was not simply a backdrop, it was a companion shaping the pace of life, demanding respect and offering in return a deep sense of continuity. Walking the streets of a village today, one can still sense this history. The wooden beams of old houses creak with memory, while moss grows thick on stone walls that once marked gardens or paths. In the silence, the echoes of daily life are easy to imagine. The swing of an axe, the laughter of children, the slow toll of a church bell. These sounds, though gone, feel suspended in the air, woven into the fabric of the place, just as the whispers of the forest are woven into the pines. The villages of the Black Forest remind us that human life here was always shaped by balance. Too much reliance on the forest risked depletion. Too little meant hardship in the winters. The people who lived here understood this unspoken pact, and their traditions reflect it. Rituals to honor the woods, practices to ensure sustainable use of resources, and stories that carried warnings and wisdom about respecting the forest's power. Their quiet, deliberate lives were a mirror of the forest itself, patient, enduring, and always in conversation with the land around them. As twilight approaches, and the village begins to sink into shadow, the contrast between human settlement and forest becomes less distinct. The roofs, chimneys, and barns fade into the same dark tones as the pines. Lights flicker softly in the windows, blending with the glow of the horizon. The forest surrounds the village, not as a threat, but as a constant presence, steady and watchful. In these moments, the interconnectedness between people and woodland is clearest, and the quiet harmony that defined life in the Black Forest for centuries feels alive again. Rising above the dense canopy of pines and firs, the Black Forest's hills offer vantage points where the woodland reveals itself in broad, sweeping views. The climb to these higher places is gradual, following paths that wind steadily upward, bordered by mossy stones and clusters of ferns. Each step takes the traveler further from the shadowed stillness of the forest floor into air that feels clearer, sharper, and tinged with the scent of resin and earth. The effort of ascent is rewarded with moments of pause, where the trees thin and glimpses of the valleys below flicker between branches. At the crests, the forest stretches outward in endless waves of green and shadow. The tops of pines ripple like the surface of a dark sea, shifting gently with the wind. In the distance, rolling hills give way to higher ridges, and beyond those, faint outlines of mountains mark the horizon. These views are not dramatic in the way of jagged peaks or vast deserts, but they hold a quiet power, the sense of an immense, continuous woodland, unbroken and enduring. The sheer expanse invites reflection on scale, time, and the smallness of human presence against the patience of the land. The hills themselves are not barren, but alive with subtle growth. Blueberries and heather creep across the open slopes, while tall grasses ripple in the breeze, forming patterns that mirror the movement of clouds above. Birds of prey circle high, their wings catching thermals as they scan the valleys below. From these heights, the forest-hidden waterways glitter in threads of light, and the paths that wind through the undergrowth are barely visible, faint scars of human passage across a timeless landscape. For centuries, these high places served practical and spiritual purposes alike. Shepherds brought their flocks here to graze, hunters used the vantage points to observe, and villagers climbed to mark festivals or leave offerings. Stone cairns, some small and simple, others more deliberate in design, still stand on certain ridges, silent markers of human presence and memory. Whether practical or symbolic, they suggest that these overlooks were never just places of escape, but points of connection, linking the people of the valleys to the forest's vastness. The winds on these ridges carry their own soundscape, distinct from the murmurs of streams or the whispers of pines below. The air moves freely, producing a low, continuous hum as it brushes over grasses, stones, and trees. Standing here, one feels both exposed and deeply attuned, every sound amplified by the openness. The forest no longer surrounds, it spreads outward, an ocean of green flowing into the distance. The sensation is both grounding and humbling, a reminder that stillness can be vast as well as intimate. At dawn or dusk, the hills take on a softer character. Morning mists rise from the valleys, drifting upward to blur the outlines of trees and hills, turning the forest into a layered dreamscape of light and shadow. In the evenings, the low sun casts long beams across the canopy, highlighting treetops in gold, while leaving the valleys in blue shadow. These moments, fleeting and quiet, feel like the forest breathing inhale and exhale, light and dark, presence and absence. Though the overlooks provide expansive views, they do not diminish the sense of intimacy with the forest. Instead, they reveal its rhythm on a larger scale. From above, one sees how waterways carve the valleys, how villages nestle at the edges, how ridges fold into one another in slow, undulating patterns. The forest is not chaotic, but ordered in its own way, shaped by centuries of growth and weather. Resilient and enduring, observing from such heights offers not just perspective, but also a kind of reassurance. The forest continues, patient and unhurried, no matter the changes in human life. As night falls, the hills quiet further, the winds soften, the last birds disappear into shadow, and the forest below becomes a dark, whispering expanse. The stars, unobstructed by the dense canopy, emerge one by one, scattering their light across the sky. From these ridges, the black forest seems to merge with the night, its whispers blending into the stillness of the air. It is a place where the boundaries between land, sky, and imagination blur, leaving only the steady presence of the woodland itself. Beneath the canopy of the black forest, the pines themselves seem to carry a voice, tall, straight, and unbroken. They stand in vast ranks, their trunks rising like pillars, and their crowns weaving together to form a living roof. When the wind moves through them, the needles respond with a sound that is both gentle and continuous, a hushed murmur that fills the air. It is this sound, soft yet pervasive, that gives the forest much of its character. To walk among the pines is to move through a place where silence is never absolute, but always accompanied by the quiet language of trees. The sound is not uniform. In light breezes, the pines whisper in delicate tones, a faint sifting of air that feels almost like breath. In stronger winds, the forest produces a low, resonant chorus, deep and unbroken, as though the trees are speaking together in one long exhalation. Even on still days, When the air is calm, the pines hold a presence of quiet expectation, their tall trunks steady, their crowns brushing lightly against one another. It is a language without words, one that speaks in rhythm and cadence rather than meaning, yet it is deeply felt by anyone who pauses to listen. The needles themselves, soft and densely layered, create a unique acoustic. They absorb some sounds while amplifying others, muting footsteps and bird calls, while allowing the deeper tones of wind and water to resonate more strongly. This creates an atmosphere where even the smallest sound feels significant. The crack of a twig, the flutter of wings, the faint splash of water. These quiet details encourage attentiveness, drawing the walker's focus away from hurried thought and toward the present moment. Light interacts with the pines in ways that seem equally deliberate. The canopy filters sunlight into shifting patterns, dappling the forest floor with patches of brightness that move gently with the breeze. In the early morning, beams of gold pierce through the trees, illuminating mist that lingers close to the ground. In the evening, the slanting sun paints the needles in soft hues of amber and green. This interplay of light and shadow adds depth to the forest's whispering presence, as if the trees are not only speaking through sound, but also through movement and form. The pines also hold history within their rings. Many of the trees in the Black Forest have stood for centuries, their trunks recording cycles of growth, hardship, and renewal, though their inner stories remain unseen. The sheer scale and endurance of these trees convey a sense of time far longer than any human memory. Walking among them, one is reminded of continuity, the quiet persistence of life through generations, the patient unfolding of years, and the enduring presence of the forest itself. For villagers living nearby, the pines were both resource and symbol. Their wood provided shelter, tools, and warmth, while their steady presence offered a form of protection. Stories were told about the voices of the trees, some imagining spirits in the forest, others treating the whispering as signs of weather or fortune. Regardless of interpretation, the sound of the pines became part of daily life, a constant backdrop that shaped both culture and imagination. Even today, the whispering of the pines has a calming effect. Modern visitors, drawn by curiosity or the search for stillness, often describe the forest as meditative. The sound encourages slower movement, deeper breathing, and an awareness of the surrounding landscape. To listen to the pines is to step outside of ordinary noise and into a soundscape shaped by nature's patience. It is not entertainment, but presence, not performance, but continuity. At night, the voices of the pines deepen. The absence of daylight quiets much of the forest, yet the trees continue to murmur with the slightest touch of wind. Against the dark sky, their silhouettes stand tall and silent, but their crowns continue to move, whispering softly as the stars emerge. This nocturnal soundscape is even more immersive, as human perception sharpens in the absence of light. The forest feels timeless, its whispers merging with the night air to create a sense of calm, both profound and enduring. The whispering pines of the Black Forest are not merely trees. They are participants in the life of the woodland. They shape sound, light, atmosphere, and imagination, weaving together a presence that is felt as much as it is heard. Their voices remind all who listen that stillness is never empty, that even in the quiet there is life, continuity, and a gentle dialogue between land, air, and time. Among the dense pines and firs of the Black Forest, where shadows seem endless and the canopy weaves an almost unbroken roof, there exist small openings that feel like secret rooms carved out of the woodland. These clearings are rarely large, often no more than a patch of grass or a circle of moss where trees have yielded to wind, age, or chance. Yet within these spaces, the forest transforms. Sunlight streams in unhindered, birdsong grows louder, and the sense of enclosure softens into openness. It is as if the forest itself has chosen to pause, to open its hand and offer a glimpse of light. The character of these clearings varies. Some are bright and warm, filled with wildflowers that turn their faces toward the sun. Others remain shaded, where damp moss spreads in thick carpets, and ferns grow tall in the absence of competition. A fallen tree might rest at the edge, its decaying trunk supporting mushrooms and insects, a reminder that even endings sustain life here. Each clearing has its own atmosphere, its own quiet story, shaped by the interplay of growth, decay, and renewal. For travelers, these open spaces are natural resting points. The soft ground invites sitting or lying down, and the shift in light encourages reflection. Here, the whisper of pines is gentler, carried from the edges rather than enveloping the listener. Water, if nearby, can often be heard more distinctly, its murmur no longer muted by dense layers of trees. In these moments, one can sense both the forest's vastness and its intimacy, the way it can close around you in one moment and open to the sky in the next. Historically, clearings also served practical purposes. Shepherds grazed flocks in them, woodcutters paused their work there, and villagers sometimes used them for small gatherings or quiet rituals. Evidence of these past uses is faint but present. Stones arranged in circles, remnants of old fires, or the faint traces of paths leading in and out. These human imprints are subtle, never overwhelming the natural balance, but they remind us that even in seclusion, the forest has long been shared with those who lived along its edges. The light in these clearings is perhaps their most striking feature. It shifts constantly, filtered through drifting clouds or moving branches, painting the ground with patterns that change from one moment to the next. In the morning, mist may linger low, glowing faintly as the sun rises. At midday, the brightness is almost startling after the dimness of the forest paths, while in the evening, long shadows stretch across the grass, turning the space into a place of quiet transition. The clearings teach that light itself is alive, never fixed, always moving in rhythm with the day. Wildlife, too, gathers here. Birds swoop across the open air, insects dance in sunlit swarms, and deer may appear silently at the edges, cautious yet drawn to the abundance of plants. Each clearing is a microcosm of the larger forest, a place where the dynamics of life are easier to observe. Watching these small dramas unfold, a visitor becomes aware of the forest's subtle complexity, its balance of concealment and revelation, of shadow and illumination. Spending time in these hidden spaces encourages stillness. Without the dense cover of trees, the mind feels less enclosed, more able to expand. The openness above, the softness below, and the encircling trees create a sense of gentle shelter, like being held within the forest's embrace, yet allowed to breathe more freely. It is in these quiet clearings that the Black Forest reveals another of its lessons, that stillness is not only found in shadow and whisper, but also in openness, in the gentle welcome of light. As dusk falls, the clearings change once more. The brightness fades quickly, shadows deepen, and the first stars appear in the sky. The forest edges draw closer again, reclaiming the openness with the weight of night. Yet the memory of the day's light lingers, held in the moss, the flowers, and the quiet air. The clearing, though hidden, remains, ready to reveal itself again when the sun returns. When daylight fades and the last warmth of the sun slips behind the hills, the black forest shifts into a different rhythm. The shadows that stretched long across the clearings grow together until the woodland becomes a single dark expanse. Pines and firs, now silhouettes against the dim sky, stand like watchful sentinels. The forest floor, once alive with dappling light, is enveloped in shadow, where every detail softens into a quiet blur. It is not absence, but transformation. The forest, so alive with whispers and murmurs by day, now holds itself in a deeper, slower breath. The soundscape changes first. The constant chorus of birds diminishes, replaced by the hum of insects and the occasional rustle of nocturnal animals moving unseen through the undergrowth. The streams, which gurgle cheerfully in the light, take on a lower tone, their flow amplified by the stillness around them. The pines, though silent in appearance, continue to respond to the wind. Their murmurs are deeper, heavier, almost solemn, carrying across the woodland like distant voices. The night does not empty the forest of sound. It reshapes it, slowing it into a calm, steady pulse. Stars emerge in the gaps above, scattered between the crowns of trees. On clear nights, the sky stretches wide and luminous, contrasting with the dense dark below. In places where the canopy parts, the stars reflect faintly in pools and streams, a second sky trembling on the surface of the water. The quiet is profound here, but not hollow. It is filled with the subtle presence of life, with the awareness of continuity, and with the rhythm of a land that has endured far longer than memory. Villages at the edges of the forest often mark this transition with light. Small lamps flicker in windows, casting warm glows that soften the boundary between human life and the surrounding darkness. Their chimneys release faint threads of smoke, which hang low in the cool air before drifting into the trees. To stand at such a threshold is to feel the coexistence of two worlds, the safety and warmth of settlement, and the expansive, quiet vastness of the woods. Neither intrudes upon the other. Both remain in a kind of quiet dialogue, shaped by necessity, respect, and time. For travelers within the forest at night, the sense of scale shifts. The narrow paths become harder to follow. The undergrowth conceals more than it reveals, and the mind becomes acutely aware of every sound, every shadow, every shift of air. Yet, within this heightened awareness lies an unexpected calm. The darkness slows thought, demanding presence and attention. A twig snapping underfoot, a branch creaking in the wind, or a ripple moving across a stream. Each detail is magnified, each moment stretched. The forest teaches stillness not by removing sound or motion, but by asking the listener to notice them more deeply. The black forest at night is not a place of menace, but of endurance. Its silence is steady, its presence unwavering. The same pines that whispered in daylight now stand tall in the moonlight, their voices softer but no less constant. The streams continue their murmurs, the clearings wait quietly beneath the stars, and the hills stretch outward into shadow, their outlines faint against the horizon. The forest holds itself in continuity, unchanged in essence, patient in its rhythms. To leave the forest at such an hour is to carry its calm outward. The mind, slowed by its whispers and softened by its stillness, feels lighter. The heart, quieted by its steady pulse, feels grounded. The black forest, with its hidden paths, murmuring streams, and whispering pines, lingers long after one steps beyond its boundaries. It is not only a place of legend, but of presence, a landscape where time moves slowly, where silence endures, and where the ordinary becomes profound simply by being noticed. May this story settle in your heart like a whisper, and may your dreams be calm and kind. Good night.